Albert, let's stay in the NFC East. By now, many people have seen this video. It's Zeke Elliott being caught by TMZ. He was filmed pulling down a woman's shirt at a St. Patrick's Day celebration. Now, this doesn't exist in a vacuum because he's also being investigated for domestic violence. So how concerned should the Cowboys be?
Well, it certainly, calls into question decision-making. And the thing you got to remember, again, it's just like you said, like these things don't happen in a vacuum. And it's, if you get a couple speeding tickets, you might be a little bit more careful on the highway. You might be a little closer to 65 miles an hour, if that happened over the last couple of months to you. And this is I think that kind of applies here where, Zeke Elliott, and look, we don't know what happened with Zeke Elliott in Columbus last summer, but that accusation's out there. And so, I think the way that any football team would look at it with its players is if you've been involved in something, you want to be careful about doing anything that can call into question what happened in the past. And this is obviously another incident with a woman. So, in a vacuum, what happened, at the St. Patrick's Day parade maybe wouldn't be that big a deal. But based on what there is in his past and based on some of the, knocks on him coming out of Ohio State, that, the partying had become a little bit of an issue, you certainly have to, if you're the Cowboys, pull Zeke Elliott in and say, this is just a common sense thing. Like, you have to be careful because you've got this reputation already. And so you don't want to feed into what people think of you. And obviously, I think what happened on St. Patrick's Day there, or at the St. Patrick's Day parade, certainly feeds into perception of what Zeke Elliott has been.
Albert Breer, really appreciate your time. And whatever's in that bag with the coffee behind you, we'll take a little bit. Looks like breakfast has arrived for the Breers.
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing in there. Nothing in there.
Oh, we're so disappointed. We're so disappointed. Albert Breer, thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thanks, Maggie. Thanks, Jordan.
All right. So one thing that Albert said, it really, it was something I thought also, which is if this Zeke Elliott thing happens without any suspicion of domestic violence, I don't think we're talking about it today. And beyond that, 20 years ago, we don't see this happening at a St. Patrick's Day party. 20 years ago, there's not camera phones. Maybe this is a story that 100 people then go on and they tell someone and they tell someone. It becomes this big rumor. But I can't help but wonder, Jordan, do you think it was better to be a professional athlete 20 years ago, or is it better to be one today?
I hate to use the double-edged sword, but that is the, I think, perfect description. Because 20 years ago, obviously, you don't have as much money, but you also don't have the scrutiny of social media. You've heard a lot of athletes. We mentioned Charles Barkley earlier in the show. He said, if there was a camera phone when I was playing, who knows where I'd be today? And Michael Jordan said similar things. So I would say it's probably better now just because of the money and there's a little more financial stability, even in the NFL. But I think there is a point to be made that if you're playing in the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s to an extent, there is less pressure from that regard.
Yeah, I still think it's better now, but, we forget that, people say that Zeke Elliott's 21. He should know better, and he should play big-time college football and obviously is now a huge star in the NFL. But 21 to me is just not that old. It just doesn't seem like this is not a 31-year-old that we're talking about or even beyond that, which I thought was just kind of interesting. This thing obviously, like I said, doesn't happen in a vacuum, but
the allegation out there really hurts him here.
It absolutely does. This really shows a pattern potentially. And I also can't help but think that, this is the moment right now for Zeke Elliott. Depending on what this investigation turns up, his entire career could shift. He really, the way we talk about Zeke Elliott, depending on what happens with this domestic violence situation, and now we have this video of him pulling the woman's shirt down, we could be thinking about him and looking at him completely different off the field in just a matter of weeks.
And this should be a time when we're celebrating one of the great rookie years of anybody ever. Just in a phenomenal season, and yet we're talking about this now. You do wonder now how much that halo hangs over him moving forward as we go into spring, into training camp. It is a shame for him. I hope everything turns out okay with the allegation because that is the real issue here.